We're good. Let me get my blankie back on. I'm a freezing little lady. Okay.
Hello? I can hear someone walking up the stairs. Hello and welcome to the Your Favorite Book podcast. I'm Tanner.
I'm Mallory.
We're siblings and we love to read books. And in today's episode, drumroll please, we are reading Catching Fire. Well, we've already read it.
Yeah.
I just finished it.
We'll start reading it out loud. This episode's going to be 8.5 hours long.
Actually, more like 11.
Yeah.
12.
Did you listen to it or did you read it?
Half and half.
Nice.
I
That's what I
read the
usually
first
do.
half and then I listened to the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Because while I was reading Catching Fire, I was reading My Heart and Soul, Guards by Terry Pratchett. And I couldn't stop reading that.
I have several books that I've been devouring alongside the ones that we've been reading this last week or two, so
that we're required
I get it.
to. Yeah. This was your favorite book that you recommended to me.
Yes.
We just finished our episode on The Hunger Games a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I hadn't read it since I was a kid. It's one of your favorite books. Mm-hmm. Go back and watch our episode if you want to hear our thoughts on that. But I absolutely loved The Hunger Games as well. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to keep reading further into the series, so here we are.
Yeah, I read the series. I said this in our first Hunger Games episode, but I read it when the movies came out. And I really liked it. When I originally read it, I felt like Hunger Games was really good, Catching Fire was okay, Mockingjay was mediocre. So the new Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes came out, and I reread all of them, and I loved it. And it had been so long since I had read the first ones that it was like reading it again for the first time, so that was fun. And I really enjoyed Catching Fire a lot. I don't know what my favorite Hunger Games book is. I think it is the first one because it's fantastic and classic.
Yeah.
But I really do like what the other ones add to the story. I like that we got to see the Quarter Quell. I think it's fun. It's fun to add that every 25 years something different happens with the Hunger Games. And I like getting more backstory for Haymitch. We meet some more fun secondary characters like Joanna and Finnick and Mags and Beatty.
I knew you would like those characters.
Yep, all the scraggly little losers.
Yep. The cannon fodder, you mean?
Yes. But yeah, I really loved the characters. I liked it.
Okay.
I enjoyed it.
Okay. I had forgotten about some of the backstory stuff with Haymitch, which is good. Haymitch really doesn't play much of a role in the story outside of that, which is kind of too bad, in my opinion. But we'll get into all that.
Yeah.
I had read The Hunger Games when it first came out. I stopped when the movies came out because I was like, this is popular. I don't like this anymore.
Yep.
So I had never read the second book. I'd never read the third one. I am going to read the rest of them. I have to know how this series ends. This TLDR is that I did not like Catching Fire. I felt like it was, in general, a retreading of the first book, and in my cynical little brain, it kind of felt like a cash grab.
Yeah.
Which I have a hard time saying out loud because I did enjoy Hunger Games so much that the sequel, I had such high expectations for it. I wanted the progress of, people in District 12 to begin rebelling against the Empire. I thought the first book ended with such a good premise.
There's a lot of great momentum that is built in the first book.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, great, let's keep going.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like they were like, actually, we're going to pick that back up and put it at the beginning again.
Yes. I think just to talk about it like in chronological order, I guess, would be the easiest way because all the good things that I have to say about this book are contained within the first act.
Yeah.
and then that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, which I feel bad saying because I know you like this book.
Nah, that's okay. That's what this podcast is for.
Yes.
It's
for me to make fun of your taste.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's where it started. It's where it will end.
I don't
you
mean
will
it.
have no character growth, but I will, because I will be less sensitive about my opinion.
And I'll learn
Just
how to be
kidding.
nicer to you.
I am not the kind of person. I hate when you share media with someone and they're like, I hate it. And people are like, you're wrong, I hate you. No, you're just stupid, you don't get it, blah, blah, blah. That's so stupid.
Yeah, let's have a discussion about it.
It's totally fine if you didn't enjoy it.
Let me prepare my arguments for why you're wrong.
Yes,
Let me explain to you exactly how this book sucks. No. All of my opinions are just based on my opinion. And it's totally fair if you like this book, regardless of, what I think about it, obviously.
Yep.
But we've established that even in our Bonesmith episode.
Yes.
Which was the first book that you had me read. It was your favorite book of 2023. And we had no idea what we were doing back then. We still kind of don't.
Yeah. But at least our episodes aren't 3 hours long anymore.
Yes, at least they aren't 3 hours of me complaining about a book that I just didn't really like that much. But that's all besides the point. The first act of The Hunger Games, like the first book, is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And like I said, I had such high hopes for the sequel that I was like, ooh, she's doing it again. Suzanne Collins, back at it. Not great writing, but really efficient storytelling.
Yep.
Where it's like the first chapter is kind of a nice denouement. And again, I don't know if I'm using that word correctly, but it kind of feels like, she's back home with her family. She's living in the Victory Villa. Is that what it's called?
Victor's Village.
Victor's Village. Her family's taken care of. She goes hunting with Gale every Sunday, but he works at the mines. It's like kind of wrapping some things up. She goes back to the Hob to meet Greasy Say to make some trades. She pays for as many things as she can because she knows everybody's poor. It's a nice little, refreshing break where it's like we just kind of get like a slice of life look at what Katniss is up to since winning the Hunger Games. And then I don't know how quickly it happens, but it feels like the very next chapter she meets President Snow.
Yeah.
Who's like the Darth Vader of the
He's
Hunger
like,
Games.
Hello.
I'm very evil. I smell like blood. I don't know how that's possible, but I smell like blood and roses. It's a rare perfume.
Death.
Yes. He's wearing a skull mask.
Yeah.
He's got a Reaper scythe.
He actually is a zombie. This is a zombie apocalypse book.
Yes, it is. Actually, I would have enjoyed this more if it were a zombie apocalypse book.
Fun.
That's what they should have done instead of the Hunger Games 2.
It's sitting right there.
That would have been more interesting.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, it's the Hunger Games, but with zombies instead.
Yep, we're like,
they could have done that.
We're going to ditch all the world building. It's zombies now.
Yes. I don't want to give anything away with what I want to say about the second or third act.
Yes.
So hold your horses.
I will.
Missy.
Hold my zombies.
Hold your zombie horses. President Snow, he's very evil. I actually like the way that he's written. This is basically the only opportunity we get to learn about him in this book.
Yeah.
He shows up and tells Katniss, I know that you kissed Gale and you aren't in love with Peeta. I would have killed you on the spot after the stunt you pulled in the Hunger Games last year.
Yeah.
And now that you're going on this tour to all the other districts, which happens every year, the victors from the Hunger Games go to all the other districts and say, aren't we great? It's
Sorry, we killed your sons and daughters.
Yeah, it's this cruel thing. But I would have killed you on the spot, and you have to convince me that you actually do love Peeta.
Yeah, he's like, you may have won the Hunger Games, but you're still a pawn in this, and I control you.
Exactly. It's a good setup. And the stakes are, if you don't convince me that you really love Peeta, then your family and loved ones are dead.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great setup. Super efficient. I totally get what the stakes are. I care about Katniss, care about her family. And they did a great job establishing in the first book how bad of an actor Katniss is.
She's like, oh no.
It's my one weakness.
My one weakness is masking.
I know.
I love it.
It's great.
I love it.
Unfortunately, that doesn't come into play at all for like the second half of this book.
Yeah.
It kind of plays a role in the first act, but not really. I like the way that it's handled.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like, she has to go to just District 11 first. And of course,
That's
it's
where
District
Rue was
11.
from, and
That's Rue's family. That's where Rue was from. and
And
Thresh.
Thresh, who saved Katniss's life. Well, I guess he's like, eye for an eye, didn't kill her.
Right, but
Anyway.
still, he spared her life when he could have, or probably should have, killed her then. And she fails at convincing people that she's in love with Peeta or that she isn't rebelling, because President Snow basically hints towards Katniss that because of what she did, some people in the district, some of the more rebellious districts, perceive that as an act of rebellion.
It's giving them courage and strength to do the same in their own way.
And unbeknownst to Katniss, her Mockingjay pin, Rue's death, even Rue's song has kind of become symbols and melodies for the rebellion.
Yeah.
So she goes to District 11, first thing, which I really appreciated. I'm like, we have high stakes. And yes, she's going right to District 11. And Katniss has to pretend to be in love with Peeta. And at the end of book 1, they left on a very cold note. So now they're like they're not even friends anymore. They're just ignoring each other. Because Katniss basically told Peeta, hey, I faked all that. I know you're truly desperately in love with me, but I am not.
I was pretending.
Bye.
You were delirious with blood poisoning.
Yeah. And so now she has to tell Peeta, hey, we need to keep this act up again. Well, she doesn't even tell him that. They just assume those old roles because they know they have to play it up for the camera.
Yeah.
So they go to District 11, and Peeta promises the victims' families from District 11 to give them a portion of his winnings, which everyone is shocked about.
Yeah.
And then Katniss delivers a heartfelt speech. I can't remember specifically what she says.
She's like, Rue saved my life and I will never forget what she did.
Yeah.
Please, I know it's not much, but we'll give you as much as we can to help support. And everybody's like,
this has never happened before.
Yeah.
It's very unprecedented. The winner's showing some sort of compassion towards former competitors.
And the thing that the Capitol is afraid of most is the districts uniting together.
Yeah.
And showing that bridge of trust among the districts is like, nope, this is why we have every child kill each other's child, because we need that division. Otherwise, bad things will happen.
Yeah. But Katniss, as soon as she's about to leave with Peeta, she can't not say something about Rue because she was so important to her. And as soon as she does, someone in the crowd whistles Rue's melody. And then some other people pick it up, right?
Yeah.
And then they give her the 3-finger salute, which is the District 12 thing.
I think it's
Isn't it a District 12 thing?
I thought it was a District 12 thing, and then I think she does it in the Hunger Games and people pick it up.
Or maybe people saw her do it at the beginning of Hunger Games 1, like after she volunteered for Prim, then the people in the district did it, and that was televised. So now everyone else saw it. Or was it a District 13 thing and it was passed down? I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
Anyway, there's ways to explain how District 11 knows that salute. It really doesn't matter. But they salute her and they leave. Peacemakers push them. Peacekeepers, sorry.
You're good.
Peacemaker is the name of a character from DC. And the Peacekeepers push them away into a Justice building really quickly, but not before Katniss turns around in time to see the old man who whistled first being executed in front of the crowd. So I'm like, good, this is a great way to establish the story about rebellion.
Yeah.
Fast forward a little bit, and they find out that the Quarter Quell is coming. And the Quarter Quell happens once every 25 years. And the Hunger Games has been around for 75 years this year. And every Quarter Quell, they do something special with the Hunger Games.
Yeah. Like, Hey Mitch won his Quarter Quell, and they had 2 tributes of each gender pulled in. So there were 48 tributes instead of 24. So it's much more people, much more competition, much more brutal. Like, stuff like that happens for Quarter Quell. There's no rules. Like, every time they're like, okay, Hunger Games, it's awful, but we know what it is. And then Quarter Quell comes and they're like, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's much scarier. Obviously it's supposed to be more dramatic for the people who love the games. And we find out that for this Quarter Quell, they're going to bring back previous victors.
Yep.
So the story for this book, the plot is that we're going to do Hunger Games 2.
Yep.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yep.
Katniss and Peeta are obviously going to go back to the games. And that was when I first became concerned about this story. Because the Hunger Games are probably the least interesting part about this series.
Yeah.
To be honest. And we'll get into that more. But the more interesting parts of the Hunger Games for me were Katniss obviously being a very strong character. She's going up against this insurmountable, seemingly all-powerful apparatus, the Capitol, and overthrowing it for her family and loved ones.
Yeah.
And a pretty good love triangle romance thing between she, Gale, and Peeta. Now, I felt like those three things were pretty well established in the introduction of the sequel.
Yeah.
And what I expected was a smoother transition from Act 1 to Act 2.
Yeah.
Where Katniss was going to begin rebelling against the Capitol. However she accomplishes that.
Yeah.
Kind of in the vein of Red Rising, which is a book that we also did a recent review on. One of my favorite books that you read, but you didn't like at all.
I really enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite book, but I really enjoyed it.
I'm joking. I'm being...
I'm much more kind to you than you are to me.
Yes, it's true. It's actually true.
I just am more of an entertainment reader.
Yeah.
You really analyze and think about everything in your books.
I read for
which
fun.
I really admire. But I'm like, did it make me laugh? Was I entertained? 5 stars!
Right.
Anyway.
I felt like Hunger Games is more similar in the veins of a story like Red Rising, where it's all about the rebellion.
Yeah.
So that's what I expected for the second book is, okay, let's start the rebellion. Act 1 is completed, let's start the rebellion. And there's a couple of other things that they do establish in the first act that I thought were really good, like concluding the love triangle between Peeta and Gale. Peeta, Gale, and Katniss, right? So Katniss returns home, Gale kisses her, and she's all conflicted about like, I don't know if I really like Gale.
She's kind of like, wow, he kissed me and I didn't feel anything, but he's my best friend, so I should probably kiss him back.
But she, and I really like this about her character, she has decided that she doesn't want a boyfriend, she doesn't want a family, because she doesn't want the chance of her children being selected for the games again.
Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And also her father being killed in the mines, all that stuff. She's got a lot of trauma.
And her having to take care of her sister too. She's like, I've already done this. And the worst thing did happen. My sister was drawn for the games.
Yes.
Anyway.
So she having 2 boys who are ostensibly like perfect young men.
Yep.
Like Peeta's absolutely perfect.
Yes.
And Gale's obviously very handsome and also very perfect. Her having to choose between these 2 people, that's a good sense of tension where it's like, I don't know which one I like, but at the same time, I also don't want to tie myself down.
Either.
Yeah. I thought that was good soup of conflict.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too. It's fun to read that.
Yeah. And it's not until Gale's life is threatened at the end of the first act when a new peacekeeper comes into District 12 and catches him with a wild turkey that he just hunted, which is a crime that's apparently punishable by death in some cases. But the other peacekeepers of District 12 convince him that for a first offense, we just whip him.
Well, it's also Haymitch who kind of has a big part of that.
Oh, that's right.
That peacekeeper would have whipped him to death. At least that was my opinion. I don't think he cared, and he wanted to make a symbol of the new peacekeeper in town. He's in charge now, and all of you guys have been lollygagging on the rules, and that's not going to cut it.
So I need to set a new tone.
And Katniss is like, don't, and then she gets whipped in the face.
Yeah.
And Haymitch is like, okay.
You just whipped a victor.
Let's all pause. Do you know who this person is? Yeah, you're going to get killed yourself if you touch her. Let's all leave it. We've learned. We've learned. It's a good moment for Haymitch. I like his character a lot. I just like Haymitch.
Yeah, he is. So when Gale's life is threatened, Katniss finally discovers, oh, I have some true feelings about Gale. Or did I say that wrong?
No, you're correct. Yeah.
that I thought I said when Katniss found out that Haymitch's life was threatened.
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't think
Maybe
so.
I did.
Either way, she cares about Gale.
Yes. Katniss cares a lot about Gale. She stays up with him all night. His back is obviously torn into ribbons, and his mother did as much as she could to heal him. Mm-hmm. And Katniss is like, okay, I choose Gale. She kisses him. She doesn't know if he was conscious at that moment or not. But Peeta also finds out, okay, I get it. Those two are in love. I'm going to do the mature thing and move on. Mm-hmm. And it's great that Peeta is also a mature person.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, she kissed him after we got whipped for her.
Yeah, he could have been the pitiful, spurned young lover, right?
Which is what Gale is.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm Team Peeta, but anyway.
Yeah, but I think actually I prefer Peeta being perfect because it would have been so much easier to hate Peeta or to dislike him if he responded immaturely.
Yeah.
So it makes you want Katniss to be with Peeta because it's like, it's so much more painful.
Peeta respects your boundaries, Katniss.
Yeah, it's well done for a love triangle, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But I thought after those things were all established, the love triangle thing is wrapped up, mm-hmm. Gale's life is threatened, Katniss was thinking about running away. Mm-hmm. Oh, geez, I can't believe we forgot to mention this.
Oh, yeah.
President Snow, when he told Katniss at the beginning of the book, you need to convince me that you're in love with Peeta. Peeta proposes to Katniss while they're on this tour of all the different districts. And then President Snow comes up to Katniss and says, congratulations, I can give you away.
Yeah.
Right. And then she looks at him like, did I pass? And then he gives her a subtle shake of his head. No. I thought, great. Okay, the rebellion's going to start. Right? Because she failed to convince President Snow that she and Peeta were truly in love. But really what President Snow was asking her to do was to stop the rebellions and all the districts happening from happening. She did her best, but obviously her stunt that she pulled in District 11 did not help.
She's like, it's not my fault you're a tyrannical ruler and everybody hates you, President Snow.
Yeah, and she and her family are being held responsible for that. Yeah. So she returns home. She's like, I'm going to run away. And then Gale gets caught by this new peacekeeper. And she decides, okay, there's nothing you can do. Even if I tried to run away with Peeta, Haymitch, my mom, Gale, and their family, the Capitol would just find and kill us. So you have to stand up and fight. And then the Quarter Quell comes. Yeah. And she has to go back to the Hunger Games. And she gives up on rebelling altogether.
She's kind of like, I won once, I could win again.
Nope, she doesn't even do that. She's like, I'm not going to win again. I'm going to make sure Peeta survives.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. She's like, forget trying to overthrow the Capitol. It's pointless. I'm just going to do the Hunger Games again and die a martyr for Peeta. For the cause, and so Peeta can lead the rebellion.
It's kind of a weak way. There's an issue with this book in that there is a rebellion happening throughout the entire book. But Katniss isn't trusted with it.
Yes, exactly.
And so they do it behind her back while using her as a pawn.
Yeah.
It would have been so much more interesting if she was like, okay, I need to get this, and this done in order to aid the rebellion for Haymitch while pretending to be in love with... Like, that would have been so much more intricate and amp the stakes a lot more than just Hunger Game 2.0.
Yeah, I totally agree. I had the exact same thoughts when I finished this. If you really love the Hunger Games themselves that much and you want to do it again, it would have been so much better if Katniss had been, in the loop of the rebellion that was going on behind the scenes.
Yep.
Because throughout the book, we do get like one or two little glimpses of like, the rebellion's happening. Yeah. Secret safe. Yeah. Like the new headmaster of the games, the new game master.
Plutarch Heavensby.
How do you remember that name? Plutarch Heavensby?
I love the Hunger Games.
Okay.
I think that's his name.
That sounds right. Plutarch.
I think that's his name. I can't remember the game maker in the first book, but I can remember his. Anyway.
He shows Katniss this new watch at a party, and it's got a symbol of the Mockingjay on it. And then there's like a moment when Katniss is back home in District 12, and this is in the first act, when she meets some people from District 8 who have, like run away. Yeah. I don't know what the word is.
I know.
some people from District 8 who ran away, and they're like, hey, we're going to start this rebellion. We're going to go to District 13. We think the people there are living underground. You get little hints here and there. Like, other people have the Mockingjay pin or the Mockingjay symbol on, like, a cracker or something, and they show it to Katniss.
Yeah.
She's like, what's that? I don't know what's going on.
She's like, that was weird. I think that was a bird again.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And the fact that Katniss is totally unaware of the rebellion that's happening makes her seem really quite incompetent and dumb. Which is such a massive disservice to a character who I loved in the first book, where it was like taking the problems into her own hands and solving them with her own wits and strength.
And we don't really get to see that happen until the very, very end climax of the story.
Yeah.
And even then, it's so rushed into like 3 pages that you're like, how is she figuring this out now in this 5 minutes? Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
It's really sad.
Yeah.
Also, Haymitch, I think you could have, and if you wanted to do the whole like Katniss is unaware of the rebellion thing going on, then Haymitch is such a poorly written character for this book too.
Yeah.
All he does is sit around and drink.
Yeah.
Like, what hints did you give the reader that Haymitch is behind the scenes working with Plutarch?
Yeah.
Spearheading this rebellion. Katniss even approaches Haymitch and says, hey, I want to rebel, and he just laughs at her.
Yeah, he's like, you can't, you're not capable.
Yeah, like, why don't you have some scenes where Katniss is like, hey, I want to talk to Haymitch because I want to organize this rebellion, and someone, like Gale's mother, she works as a housekeeper for him, and she says, oh, he's really sick right now, and Katniss is like, I don't care, I want to talk to him, and, she's giving some weird excuses, we don't know where Haymitch is, but Katniss wants to figure it out. Where is Haymitch? How is he working together with Plutarch to organize this rebellion? We have no idea.
Yeah, like we get Finnick is wearing Haymitch's golden bracelet, but that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only hint. That's the only thing that we get that's like, oh, Haymitch did that one thing. And it's like, wow, it was so hard for you to give him a gold bracelet.
Yeah, thanks for all your hard work, Haymitch. He really doesn't do anything. It's pretty sad.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess he gives them they do get a lot of sponsors, but that's still the same exact way that they communicated in the first book too. Yeah. Like,
nothing changes there either. Yeah. The Hunger Games itself being such an interesting premise that you can do it for a sequel does not really work because the Hunger Games are not a very interesting part of the book, really. There's even, like... okay, this is a silly little point, but there's a training montage in this book that goes on for, like, 1 paragraph that is hilarious.
Like, we ran every day. We did push-ups every day. We did squats every day.
We ate food every day. Peeta, Haymitch, and Haymitch.
Yeah.
And Katniss.
Because they're like, oh no, the victors, we gotta get in shape.
Yeah. And Peeta's supposed to be like this hard trainer. So like when I was reading that, the Rocky theme was just playing in my head. I'm like, Haymitch is working out with them? What does Haymitch care?
But his liver isn't working well enough. He has liver cirrhosis. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
He's drank way too much in his life to be able to lift anything.
Besides, like, the countless physical limitations that stand in the way of Haymitch improving his health at his age, I don't think, personally, he would want to work out. No. It felt so out of character. No. It was like, all right, I'll go throw some axes with Katniss and Peeta. It was just so weird. And it happened so quickly. It's like 1 paragraph. They started working out and they got super strong. Yeah. It kind of reminded me of, have you ever seen Rick and Morty?
No, I haven't.
Okay. It's a really dumb cartoon.
Yeah.
There's one episode where 2 of the characters, Rick and Summer, get super buff in a really quick training montage. They use steroids. They get huge just to beat the shit out of Satan. So, and it kind of reminded me of that. Like, it was that comical. Yeah. Like, why is Haymitch working out with these 2? Doesn't he know that even if his name is drawn, that Peeta's just going to volunteer for him? Yeah. Also, they don't train for anything specific for the Hunger Games.
No, they're just
all 3 of them have done the Hunger Games before.
Yeah.
And it was like 99% survival skills. Mm-hmm. They don't learn any new traps.
No.
They don't learn about like
how to
berries,
start a fire quickly,
how to start a fire, how to find water.
Yeah.
They don't prepare for any of that stuff. They're just like, let's do some push-ups and pull-ups.
They're like, when someone tries to kill me, I'm just gonna pop them one of these. Ooh, ooh. They're gonna run away, run for the hills.
It was really like, I don't know. I love training montages.
I love them if they're done well.
Yeah, I do too. And this is a good example of how to do a training montage poorly.
Yep.
That's just a tiny aside. The problem with the Hunger Games not being that interesting is that the first book was basically just a survival story. Mm-hmm. And that was fun to read.
Yeah.
I like survival stories. I like shows like Alone. Mm-hmm. And seeing it in a fictional setting, but with higher stakes, was fun.
Yeah.
But the end of the Hunger Games with the berries and Katniss outsmarting the Capitol was the perfect setup for a rebellion. Mm-hmm. So doing the Hunger Games again was just so uninspired.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to do the Hunger Games again, you have to make it, like, wildly different from the first time. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know how the people of the Capitol could watch the same Hunger Games for 75 years.
Right?
You know?
Yeah. Especially
like,
for people who are, like...
interesting.
They're, like... They are so over the top and extravagant that they find pleasure in watching children die. Like,
yeah.
They're going to get bored of that very quickly.
Yeah. They'd be like, wait,
much quicker than every
this?
25 years, too, for something to change up.
Right. It's kind of like, if you want to do something with, like, Star Trek levels of franchise potential, mm-hmm. then you need an entire universe filled with interesting worlds, interesting characters, interesting new stories, mm-hmm. new premises. The Hunger Games is a universe of one vaguely interesting, if not unoriginal idea. Yeah. Like a battle royale, ring of like children trying to survive in the woods. Mm-hmm. It's not that compelling. No. Like, it would be as if, Goosebumps. Yeah. Where it's like basically X-Files but for kids. Uh-huh. It would be like if every book of Goosebumps was the kids had to find another Frankenstein. Yeah. If, like, every book was about finding Frankenstein.
It wouldn't work. There's a reason why there's so many different things, and why that is so successful is because there's vampire, werewolf, Frankenstein,
You
ghost.
could do anything. Yeah, like, it's limitless. Yeah. So if you love the Hunger Games that much and you want to just do Hunger Games 2, Electric Boogaloo, mm-hmm. then you gotta change the world building somehow. Yeah. The Quarter Quell, what a good opportunity to do something totally different. Mm-hmm. Like, 1 year it's a battle royale, fight to the finish. The next year it's like they make a genetically mutated creature that resembles a dragon, mm-hmm. and you've got to, like, steal its gold. Yeah. Something, anything. Yeah. Like, yeah. Stretch some of your creative muscles, please.
Yeah, I really liked the Quarter Quell in the book, and I really enjoyed having an arena full of victors who have already won. Yeah. I thought that was fun and interesting to be like, in the first book, Katniss was kind of like, I don't think I'm going to win, but there are some people who will die before me. Yeah. Like, there was an aspect of, there are some people who are not built for this, versus being in a pool full of victors. Sure. All of these people have already won the games before, and they are most of them are capable of doing it again. And I liked that. It was also fun for me to get the backstory of some of the victors, because I like the world building of the Hunger Games, and I want to know how each person went through what they went through. Sure. I really liked it, and I liked having Katniss and Peeta come into this as the youngest victors, where all of the other victors knew each other for years and years and years, and they already have alliances and friendships and understandings of each other, and Patness and Keeta. Peeta and Katniss
there you go.
Are intruders into that, and they are very much at the weaker end because of that downfall. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed that, and I liked that a lot.
Sure. And that's to the book's credit. But my argument against that is the plot is almost exactly the same to the first book, but squished into the last, 2/3 of this book. Yeah. Where it's like, what's the first thing they do when they get into the games? Run to the cornucopia. Didn't we just do this? Mm-hmm. After they find their weapons and they make alliances, what's the next thing they do? They have to find water. Yeah. I just read about this. Yeah. And then they have to find food. Oh, and then there's mutated animals, and those animals, they're monkeys this time, and they're really scary. Yeah. Oh, and instead of a fire waking up Katniss in the middle of the night and they have to run away, this time it's a scary fog.
Yeah.
It's like, you're just exchanging out these plot points for slightly different things.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Fennec, Joanna, Beetee,
Mags,
all those secondary characters are interesting and memorable, but you could put them in a much more interesting place.
Yeah.
Than just the Hunger Games again, where it's just a survival story again. They even like run to the tributes, the careers again. Not the tributes, the careers. Yeah. And it's like just like the first book.
Yeah, and also in the first book, Katniss makes alliances with the weaker end of on the spectrum of tributes. She always lines up with the weaker underdogs, and she does that again too.
Yeah.
There's no surprise there. Everybody was looking to it and expecting it.
Sure. So I can see someone who like loved the Hunger Games like yourself, where you could, I don't know, I'd have to ask you, but would you read like the story of Fennec and how he survived the Hunger Games?
I definitely would. People have talked about that a lot after the prequel came out. They're like, okay, what ones do we want next? Personally, I think we should let it be. We don't need any more new stuff. It's fine.
That's okay. If people love the Hunger Games that much, that they want to read fictional survival stories.
Everybody always says they want Fennec's story, but I want Mag's story.
Okay.
Especially because she's the one who wins the year after Songbirds and Snakes.
Yeah.
I've thought about this.
I can see how that would be more appealing than reading about Katniss just surviving the Hunger Games again.
Yeah.
Because it's at least a different character.
Yeah.
From a different character's point of view.
Well, plus Mags won, I think, the 11th or the 12th. So it's way in the beginning of them figuring out how to do the Hunger Games, too.
Sure.
Like, that's completely different, too.
Sure.
Be more entertaining.
But I would say that circle of super fans who love that premise so much dwindles after every story.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's fine if you love that thing. I mean, I've started like 20 different Minecraft survival worlds.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that initial game loop.
Yep.
So I can see how you would, if you're like the true fan for that loop, that story loop, then you would love it. But for me, I love something like, we've talked about this earlier, but Harry Potter. First book in Harry Potter, you have to find the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yep.
Second book of Harry Potter, you find out that Harry's a parcel tongue, and there's a gigantic snake living underneath the school. Third book, it's the Prisoner of Azkaban. Werewolves and
like
Dementors, and with each book the world expands.
Yeah.
And with the Hunger Games, it like the scope got smaller to me.
Yeah.
And that did not catch me at all.
It didn't catch fire.
It didn't even catch me. That's the name of the book.
We're geniuses.
Yes. I honestly felt like it was, in my cynical brain, it kind of felt like a bunch of nostalgia bait.
Yeah, I think it definitely got popular very quickly, and it's comp culture to say, hey, that was great. Let's reformulate that same exact thing and pump it out again.
Yeah.
And we'll get the same fans, get the same money, get the same everything. Like, I definitely see that. I would hope you would like the next book more because it is very different and it expands.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, they don't do Hunger Games again.
They do not do Hunger Games again.
Thank God.
So I hope you like it. If you don't want to read it, if you don't want to finish it, then you don't have to.
No, I'm going to read it. Because I feel like the third book will be what the second one should have been.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Because what about the rebellion actually happens during the second book?
It happens outside of our character's worldview.
And it happens within like the last 3 pages.
Yeah.
Like, okay, the other districts rebel. There's finally a rebellion, and it's led by Haymitch and Plutarch. And Peeta was captured. Like, that's it. That's all the progress that happens in this book.
Yeah, and it all happens in the last 25 pages, too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what the second book should have done is, and I'm going to make you read further into Red Rising. I'm not going to give away spoilers. But Red Rising is another story about rebellion, obviously. In the first book, it's kind of similar to the Hunger Games, where it's like a story about survival. These kids have to prove which house is the strongest, the house that wins. Those guys get the best career opportunities. It would be like if the sequel to Red Rising was, people loved the survival school. let's do the survival
Let's
school
do it
again. But Darrow, like, isn't even a mentor or anything. He would just be in the games again.
Yeah.
It just feels so...
It's weak.
Yeah, lazy to me. You could have even done something like, okay, for the Quarter Quell, a member of Victor's family is chosen to go into the games, and Prim has to do the survival games.
And Katniss has to mentor her through. Yeah.
Or Katniss is like, hey, Mitch, you have to mentor Prim while I start the rebellion. I'm going to go to District 13. It's the only chance we have for me to save Prim.
Yeah.
Like, Prim was such an important part of Book 1. And in Book 2, she just, like, falls to the wayside. She grew up, she's pretty, she's blonde hair, just like her mom.
She's really, really good at medicine.
Yeah.
Her cat still hates me.
Where's her goat? We don't know where her goat went. It's like,
so true.
What did you do with Prim?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind her moving on from, like, okay, Katniss, the reason why she did everything was to save Prim.
But now Prim is safe.
In Book 2, Prim could be in danger again for Book 2, and that can be her motivation for starting this rebellion, which is even scarier than just going back to the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
But now she's like, I have to protect my mom, I have to protect Peeta, I have to protect Gale, I have to protect Haymitch. I love more people than just Prim in my life.
Yeah.
I'm starting this rebellion for them. But as soon as she's selected for the games, it's like her willpower and motivation is just sucked out of her.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's do Hunger Games again.
Yeah.
And she is like okay with dying to save Peeta. Because she's like, there's nothing I can do against the Capitol. I'm utterly powerless.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
It is very sad.
To me.
No, I think it's sad too. And it's hard to watch. Like, I can see why that would get a character down. But we don't want to read about a character just getting down and sad about it.
Yeah.
Like, it...
Yeah.
That's not interesting.
It would have been so much more interesting, you brought this up earlier, if Katniss had a plan. If she knew that the Quarter Quell was coming and they were going to choose either her or Prim or whatever. It was going to be something wildly different. And Haymitch was like, Katniss, while you're on tour with Peeta, try to convince President Snow that you're in love with him, but let's start a rebellion.
Yeah.
And while you're traveling to all these different districts, you meet all the different tributes that are going to be part of the Quarter Quell. Because Plutarch, he's on our side. You have to trust him.
Like, that would be so much more fun.
Because then Katniss has a plan. Then she's like, okay, I have to go to all these different places, pretend to be in love with Peeta. I have to meet these tributes, former victors, and make friends with them. That could have been your first act. It could have even been your second act.
Yeah.
And she meets all these tributes, and she's like, Fennec, I don't trust, I don't like him. She meets Brutus, and she hates Brutus, and Brutus is like this psychopathic loyalist to the Empire.
Brute. Get it?
Yes, like he's a bad guy. Like, she doesn't even build up these other tributes that are bad people. Like, when she and Peeta are meeting the other tributes, she's like, I like all of them, and I can't kill any of them.
Yeah.
And then she, like, puts on this dress. Like, remember the dress from the first book? She goes on a parade. Remember Clarence Clearwater, whatever? Remember him from the first book? Remember when they did an interview, just like the first book? I'm like, I read all this.
Except we do get Peeta, if it weren't for the baby Malark.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I have something to say about that, too, by the way.
Pregnancy trope.
Yes. But it's not even a trope, before I get off track.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. You could have established some of these other careers as, like, absolute psychopaths, and there's nothing you could say to them to convince them to work together.
Yeah, that would have been more interesting. We still do get that, like, there's a pair of tributes who literally file their teeth down.
Sure.
So they can rip people's throats out. But even still, it's just like, wow, that was really scary. Anyway, there's no...
Yeah, there's no showing.
Yeah.
It's all telling. It's like, it's exactly the problem that I had with the first book, which is I feel like she wanted this great combat between Cato and Katniss. And then she didn't really know how to handle that, so then she brought in some mutated wolves that killed Cato. It's like, I don't know if she knows how to write villains.
Yeah.
Like Brutus and the other tributes. I thought what was going to happen is, okay, they're going to do Hunger Games again, and Katniss is going to have to work together with the other tributes to fight against the Capitol.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah. You're kind of waiting for it, too, the whole time.
Yeah.
She's like, smells a little bit like rebellion, but not that much.
Yeah. But if she were more aware of that beforehand, where she's like, she's going into the Hunger Games again, and she knows exactly who to trust and who not to trust. That would have been at least something that we could depend on.
Yeah, well, it's also interesting in this world, Suzanne Collins has set up that the mentors figure out the alliances. We don't even get tributes talking to each other to figure out alliances. Katniss genuinely doesn't know who's on her team until Finnick shows her the bracelet that Haymitch gave him. Like, that's just a little bit...
She's completely powerless.
Yeah.
She's just along for the ride again. She just has to survive. Use her skills to survive.
Yeah.
It's like,
we know.
Did that. We already know she's great at that.
Yeah.
Even like, you could have done something like, she knows about the rebellion. She travels to all the other districts. She makes alliances. She finds out that Plutarch is the head of the games. And he's like, don't worry, I'll take care of you. And then the games start and Plutarch was assassinated.
Yeah.
And they knew what the games were going to be. But the Capitol found out about their betrayal and treachery. And they made entirely different games.
Yeah, so everything
Katniss
she knew was...
all these plans that I had to survive, they're thrown out of the water.
Yeah.
And I had to think on my feet and improvise.
Yeah.
Even Finnick, he was going to be in the games. He's not in the games anymore.
Yeah.
Was he assassinated? What happened to Haymitch?
Yeah.
Maybe he's been killed.
That would have been so much more active and exciting to walk through as a reader and probably to write.
Yeah. Like, did she even have any fun writing this thing?
Right?
I don't even know if she can write... I don't know. I don't want to say that. I'm such a cynic. I don't know what I want to believe. My cynical brain wants to say, okay, this is a cash grab. Suzanne Collins is better than this. She can write a good rebellion story. But my other brain, the more charitable part of my brain, wants to say, she can only write The Hunger Games.
Yeah.
And she just tried to do it again.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't know what I'd rather believe.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked it. I'm sorry you didn't.
No, it's okay.
I think taking what you didn't like about this book, I think you'll like the next one more.
Okay.
There's
I hope so.
more Hunger Games.
Yeah, I hope it's... Well, I've heard people describe, like, The Hunger Games after book 1 as more like a political drama. Which is just not the case at all.
Not for this one.
And I don't think it'll be for the third one either.
Yeah.
I think the third one will be like, okay, District 12 was destroyed, and now I'm going to have to find District 13 and, figure out how to start a war with the Capitol and then overthrow the Capitol. And I feel like it's going to be this rushed mess. But I don't know.
I'll let you read it and then decide.
Obviously, my expectations have been soured after finishing book 2.
I'm sorry you didn't like it that much.
No, it's okay. I'm glad I read it. I've learned a lot about what I don't like in a sequel.
Yeah.
And learned about a lot about world building.
I think it's hard to write a good sequel. At least for the most part, a lot of the series that I read, the first one is great, and then it's not as good moving on. At least that's something that I notice pretty frequently.
Right. That hasn't been my experience personally.
Well, I have read a lot of really bad YA fantasy. This isn't really bad YA fantasy, but like Matched by Ali Condi, that is it's the same thing. It's the same 3 love triangle. First book is pretty good, and then the second book is it's like just it's beating a horse with a shovel. What?
Beating a dead horse?
What? I don't know.
Have you ever heard that saying? Beating a dead horse with a shovel?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where the shovel came from.
I don't know
Maybe I
either.
just always assumed that's what they were beating the horse with.
I guess so too. If you were a farmer, the
You
first
would
tool you would
probably
choose
have
would
a
probably have a shovel handy if
Yeah.
you wanted to hit a dead horse with it for whatever reason.
I don't know.
I guess that's why the saying exists, because hitting a dead horse with a shovel would be kind of pointless.
Yeah, that's what it meant.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Real quick,
Yes.
a couple of things before we conclude this. The pregnancy thing.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I felt like the entire point of this book was to say, look at how evil and cruel the Capitol is. But they already did that in the first one, and so much better with Rue being a narrative parallel for Prim. What does the pregnancy have to do with anything
This
other
is
than
what
to
it's
say,
about.
like, look how cruel they are to make a woman go into the Hunger Games again?
Well, it's to me. I was seeing it as like a commentary on the fact that women don't have choice over their bodies, but as soon as they're pregnant, that's when people start caring.
Yeah.
That's what Peeta was going for, to make not President Snow, but the members of the Capitol be like, cancel the games, she's pregnant, she can't.
Sure. But they would not have realized that. They would have said, look how cruel President Snow is to make a pregnant woman go into the games.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe some prescient members of the Capitol would have been like, look at the social commentary.
But I thought thought in the book the people in the crowd were like, cancel it. And
they were.
There were talks of them canceling the games.
Yes. And this is all, obviously, I'm just speculating.
Okay.
I don't know what the people of the Capitol actually think.
Yeah.
But they were obviously disagreeing with making Katniss join the games after they found out she was pregnant.
I think it was...
I'm saying from a story perspective.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing.
Yeah. It's... I don't know.
From a story point of view, they're trying to say, like, look how evil President Snow is. He could cancel it at any time.
Yeah.
Also, that weakens President Snow as a character because it's like, do you want a rebellion on your hands? You make her show up in a wedding dress and Peeta show up in his groom's gown, and then Peeta says she's pregnant. Like, of course the people are gonna rebel after that. Like, how stupid are you? Right?
Yeah.
Like, that makes President Snow seem stupid.
Yeah, I think so, but...
Like, he's just trying to control the other the other districts, right?
Yeah.
Like, the capital are the ones that they're basically a metaphor for, like, spoiled Americans.
Yeah.
They don't realize the cruelty that the other districts experience. And, I don't know, his plan was to use Katniss being a wedding gown, being in a wedding gown. What's the word? A bride.
Yes.
As like, look at these other I control you. But he didn't account for the Capitol seeing that and loving her.
Like, what did you think? Did you think they would be happy that the newlyweds are going into the games?
Yeah. Like, he thought his people were just as bloodthirsty and cruel as he is. Is he that dumb? I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, so there's that point. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the love triangle. Because I felt like it was resolved after Act 1 when Katniss was like, I choose Gale. Now Peeta and I are just friends. And then the love triangle comes back again, just like in the first book when Katniss has to pretend to be in love with Peeta for the cameras.
Yeah.
But worse, because she and Peeta have decided to just be friends. There's no ambiguity there.
Yeah.
So there's even less tension in this book than in the first one.
Yeah.
But you told me that you disagree with that.
I like how it builds in this book because we think that Katniss is like, okay, I think I figured this out, but I gotta focus on getting Peeta alive. I gotta focus on getting him out of the games. And as they go through that, Peeta almost dies, and she's paired with Finnick at this time, and the whole time Finnick and Katniss really butt heads.
Sure.
Because I think they both are very similar people. I think that's why they butt heads. And Finnick does not buy Katniss's act. He even tells her, he's like...
This is before the games.
This is in the game. Oh yeah, he tells her before the games.
While they're like in the training sequence and they're doing the interviews with Clearwater before they're actually in the games themselves.
Yeah. And Peeta dies and Finnick resuscitates him because he gets electrocuted. Yes, now this is in the games.
Yeah.
And Katniss goes berserker crazy and she thinks Finnick is trying to kill him, so she tries to kill Finnick. Anyway, that's when Finnick is like, oh, she actually does care about Peeta. Maybe there is something here. And Katniss has to start realizing that too, where she's like, she genuinely couldn't figure out how to breathe without Peeta. And I think that's an interesting dynamic for her to be like, well, we're all gonna die anyway, but maybe I am in love with the man that I'm supposed to be married to. And there's some really touching moments between the two of them where he gives her a pearl that's very touching and sweet, but that's just because I love something sappy. But
I like those moments too.
Yeah.
But I never felt like Katniss was actually falling in love with Peeta.
I did.
Because I thought they were deciding that they were just friends. Katniss is going to die anyway, so she's just like, Peeta's the person here who I love the most. I've accepted I'm going to die, so I'm not going to like hold myself back from connecting with him emotionally.
I feel like to me that was her romantically getting close to him.
Okay.
That's interesting.
I thought maybe what they could have done is like, I don't know, maybe Katniss at the beginning of the games could have been like, told Peeta, hey, I told Gale that I love him, but I actually really like you too. You know, like open up that ambiguity between the two somehow. I don't know.
Make it a little bit more clear.
That's obviously not my forte. But to me, it felt like she had concluded the love triangle after she told Gale that I choose you. And then she's just friends with Peeta in the games.
Maybe it's just because I hate Gale so much.
Maybe so.
That I was like, oh good, we're getting back to Peeta and Katniss.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really liked it. I feel like there was a growth there that maybe you didn't read into the same way I perceived it. You know, because art is subjective.
Yeah, sure. I did feel like they were growing closer together as friends, but I didn't see the end point as like they're going to get together.
They smooch.
Yeah, but it's for the cameras. And then she says...
I disagree with you.
Okay. She says that it did feel more real kissing Peeta at that moment.
Yeah. I don't know.
But still, I feel like she probably shouldn't have said that, you know, I choose Gale.
Yeah.
I think that might have been the mistake there.
Yeah.
Because that
if
ambiguity
we leave it open,
is what's interesting to me.
Yeah.
And it felt like she kind of closed the door on Peeta after that.
And then you're like, oh, she's already in the room now with Peeta, even though she closed the door. Yeah, I can see that.
Unless it's like
sense.
There's something that happens with Gale where it's like after she chose him, then something else happens.
He kills Prim's cat. Or
something like
kidding.
that, you know? I don't know. I'm looking at it from a storytelling perspective. You know, what her actual intentions were.
Yeah.
What her actual thoughts and feelings about Peeta are. That's up to interpretation, I suppose.
Yeah.
To a degree.
Yeah.
And I think I do agree with you that she has a stronger emotional connection with Peeta, far stronger than with Gale. There's really like maybe 5 scenes total in the first 2 books between she and Gale. And she spends most of her time with Peeta anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, well, especially there's the whole trauma bond of it all, too.
Yeah.
Like, they both are plagued with nightmares from the games and find a lot of comfort in each other because they can shortcut the explanation or shortcut the I've killed a person and can't deal with the guilt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think I've talked about just about everything that I want to with this story.
I'm sorry you didn't enjoy it that much.
No, it's okay. I like ranting and being cynical.
That's okay.
I
It's
like
fun.
tapping into that part of my brain.
It's fun.
It's like, this is bad. And here's why.
I hated it for A, B, C, D, and E.
Yes.
Boo.
Well, my high school English essay writing brain kicks in. And it's like, okay, why didn't I like this? And comparing it to other things that I like, I really do love doing that.
I do too. And I love talking about media and opinions on media and relating to each other, even if they are different. So.
Yeah. And I don't see it as a waste of time.
No, me
I think
either.
it's important to keep reading outside of, you know, the particular things that you like.
Yeah.
I could have just read Guards, and I mean, I did. I could have just read Guards for like the 8th time and been like, I'm totally happy with that. But what I prefer is to challenge my tastes.
Yeah, I think it's good too, and I think it's fun to expand it, and you might find something that you did enjoy that you didn't think you would. Or you're like, oh, I've always wanted to read this. I wasn't missing out on the first time around.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Or I'll know what to look for in like a good sequel now.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to say, oh, they didn't do what I perceived as mistakes in Catching Fire. And I have that reference point now.
Yeah.
So
It's good.
it's totally valuable.
Good.
Is it one of my favorite books?
Yeah. Is it one of your favorite books?
This may surprise you, but no. It is not. And I don't know if like me not liking the second book like knocks the Hunger Games down a couple pegs.
It might.
No, I don't think it does. Because I don't know which I'd rather prefer, if Suzanne Collins is an incompetent writer or a greedy person.
Those are the only 2 options, by the way.
Yes, it is. But no, I don't like Catching Fire.
That's okay.
But I do want to read the 3rd one just to see, you know,
Get some closure.
She's going to have to be forced to write a rebellion story at some point.
It
right?
has to happen.
So I have to know what she can do with that.
Yeah. Well, I hope you like it. I'm a little bit nervous.
I think even if it's poorly written, you can't make it worse than the sequel to the first one. Really.
I hope not.
I think the biggest mistake you could have made was writing The Hunger Games 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, and then Hunger Games 3 No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe she does it again. I don't know. Maybe Katniss has to do The Hunger Games a 3rd time.
But in District 13 this time. They're
Yes.
alive. They've been doing Hunger Games the whole time.
How does she
Just
find
kidding.
water? It's irradiated. A sponsor sends her radiation cleansing water tool. It's a new story.
Yep.
No, it's not. Well, thank you for listening. If you got this far, then please leave a like and subscribe.
Please tell me if you're Team Gale or Team Peeta. There is a correct answer.
It's neither. Katniss is
Team
single for the
Katniss.
rest of her life.
Yes.
She becomes a cat lady.
Yes. Buttercup loves her at the end.
Yes. She helps Buttercup have a family because cats can't join the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.